Hey guys, welcome back to the Hoopers Lounge. This is episode 3 with Max and myself, Alex. Um, we got about 2.5 months until the start of the NBA regular season. Opening day is October 24th, and we figured now would be a good time to start our team by team previews. We're going to be going by divisions. So today we're going to start off with the Atlantic East Division, including Philly, Boston, Brooklyn, Toronto, and New York.
And before we get into the team previews, I wanted to mention something that happened recently in the NBA. Kyrie being called out for not having a very successful career without LeBron. And he replied with, wait for the next couple years, even though he's not even the best player on his team still. It's Luka. So even if they are successful, everybody's going to give Luka the credit. So I'm not really sure what Kyrie's getting at.
Hey, but still, that's scary hours in Dallas. I mean, I like what they've done this offseason. I think they put a lot of good pieces around them. Obviously, we'll get into more depth when we start covering Dallas' division with these previews, but I feel like Dallas has put the right pieces around Luka and Kyrie, and they're going to have a good bounce back season.
Yeah, they're definitely a threat in the West, but Kyrie definitely has not done a lot since his stint in Cleveland, that's for sure.
All right, with that being said, let's begin our previews of the Atlantic East Division. This division may have arguably been the best in basketball last year, with 4 out of the 5 teams making the playoffs, and the 5th being the Raptors, who made the play-in game. This year, as a whole, the division looks a little bit weaker, I'd say. Lost to some superstars, lost to some depth in the division, but still could be a very strong division nonetheless. We'll start off with Philly. What we're going to do for each team is we're going to list their MVP, their X Factor, talk a little bit about their offseason moves and what we expect from them this season.
Yeah, okay, so I'll get it started. For Philadelphia, my expectation is top 4 in the Eastern Conference. Really, anywhere 1 through 4, I expect them to be that good this season, especially with Joel Embiid coming off his MVP season last year. He is my MVP for the Sixers, obviously.
Obviously.
He's the second best center in the league, so he should be dominant on both ends of the court. And for my X Factor, I have James Harden, not so for his play, but because of his contract status. His future could very well determine the Sixers' future this season and what their ceiling is.
Yeah, actually the same exact thing. MVP is Embiid. I mean, obviously he was league MVP last year. You can't argue for anyone else. And also my X Factor is Harden. Again, not because of his play with Philadelphia, but because he requested a trade. What they get back for Harden is the X factor that'll determine whether or not they have a successful season. They get a good trade, they get a lot of good core pieces around them. They could make a push in the East. If they prioritize the future and get first round picks, they might not be as big of a player with Embiid having to carry the entire team. They didn't do much in the offseason. They didn't really lose anyone notable. The only notable signings they had were Mo Bamba and Patrick Beverley. But here's a little pattern picked up the last couple of years. So Giannis Antetokounmpo wins MVP in 2019-2020. Then 2021 doesn't win MVP, but he wins the championship. Jokic wins MVP in 2021-2022. 2023 wins a championship. So if this holds up, not this year, but next year, Philly will be your 2025 NBA champions.
Okay,
As long as if Embiid wins MVP this year, the pattern holds up. The pattern holds up. He goes back to back.
I don't know.
If he goes back to back, I mean,
only time will tell.
But
okay,
you just got to see if the pattern holds up.
Yeah, next team. Who you want to talk? Boston. We'll go to Boston. The Boston
we'll
Celtics,
go to Boston next.
Who were the best team in that division last year. I'll let you lead this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Boston, again, they're expected to be a finals contender, especially with the moves they made in the offseason. Trading for Porzingis is huge, and I actually have him as an X factor for the team ahead of Jaylen Brown. I feel like if Porzingis lives up to what he can be, supersized stretch 4 or 5 player who can offer elite rim protection, I feel like that could impact the team in a positive manner more than Jaylen Brown does. On the flip side, if Porzingis doesn't live up to that, they gave up a lot for him. They gave up one of their core players in Marcus Smart. And if Porzingis isn't what he's expected to be, that'll hurt the team more than Jaylen Brown can. Because of that, Porzingis is my X factor. Obviously, Tatum's going to be MVP of the team. Still a young player and already top 10 in the league. He's only going to get better. Might have some growing pains with the new core to start off the beginning of the season, but I do expect this team to secure a home court advantage in the playoffs and make a deep playoff run.
I agree. My expectation is that they get a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference based off how they finished last year. For me, it's them and Milwaukee, the top 2 teams in the East every year, basically. So I expect them to finish in the top 2. I have Tatum as my MVP, obviously, and I also have Porzingis as my X factor. However, Jaylen Brown better play like the team MVP this year after the bag he got, or else they will.
After getting the richest contract in NBA history, better be the team MVP.
He needs to be the team MVP this year, or else they'll be similar to previous Celtic teams. Good, but not good enough.
Come up short in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The offseason, they were one of the most active teams in the offseason with the aforementioned Porzingis trade. They also traded away Grant Williams to the Dallas Mavericks, and the big news, signing Jaylen Brown to the richest contract extension in NBA history. With that contract, they're locked into the score for the next 4 or 5 years, as we've mentioned in previous podcast episodes, for better or for worse. So, yeah, Brown's got a lot of pressure on him this season to perform like an alpha. Tatum is a superstar. It's only going to get better. Porzingis offers a lot of enticing attributes in offense and defense. And if this team puts it all together, they have a very good chance of winning the 2024 NBA championship.
Yeah, the Celtics went all in this year, signing Brown, trading for Porzingis, Tatum entering his prime. It seems that if they don't win a championship in the next couple of years, they would have missed their window of opportunity.
Yeah, and not including that, Tatum's eligible for extension. What is it, 2 years?
Yeah, soon.
If they don't have the playoff success that he expects, who knows? We could see Tatum being the next big free agent to leave.
Yeah. Okay, next team, we'll transition to the Knicks. We'll go to the Knicks next. So the New York Knicks were pretty solid last year. Disappointing end to their season, but they had a solid year. Notably, the play of Jalen Brunson put the league on notice last year. I expect them to be top 6 in the East. I don't think they're as good as the top 4 teams, but they can definitely compete for the 5 or 6 spot and maybe even get the 4th spot if the standings fall their way. My team MVP is Jalen Brunson for obvious reasons. He's the best player on the team, and he makes their whole team better in every way. And my X factor is RJ Barrett because he needs to prove something, or else the Knicks won't get any better. He needs to improve and be the 3rd best player on this team, the 3rd scoring option that they so desperately need.
So far, we've had the same MVP and X Factor for every team. My MVP is also Brunson. I feel like it's safe to put him over Randall at this point. Brunson had a very good year last year for his first year as a lead scoring option away from Dallas. He proved that he could carry a team, be the number 1 scoring option. That's not shade on Julius Randle. He's a great second option. Can put up 20 points a night on a consistent basis. And RJ Barrett is my X Factor because out of the top 3 picks of his draft class, what we've seen from Zion, even though it's been limited, Zion can be a superstar. Ja's already an established superstar, and RJ has not met the expectations that he had coming into his NBA career. The Knicks as a whole, I see the Knicks as a candidate for regression, honestly, because I don't see a jump from Barrett coming. They didn't really add a bunch of free agency, although they've been linked to some stars around the league that might be disgruntled with their franchise, such as Zach LaVine. If they end up making a trade like that, obviously their expectations will change. But as of right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks slide to the playing game. They lost Obi Toppin, and the only notable free agent they added is DiVincenzo. Neither of them are really groundbreaking gains or losses. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Knicks, make the playing game. They got a very young core. It's big for them to take a next step up in their development, and if not, the East got a lot better as a whole. So
I agree that the East got a lot better as a whole, but with Jalen Brunson, this being his 2nd year, I feel like he'll be more comfortable. He'll be able to command the offense better, and I feel like him and Randall, if they can develop some sort of chemistry, they could be one of the best duos in the Eastern Conference for sure.
Yeah, but other than Brunson and Randall, who else do they have? Who else can carry the scoring option if both of them are off?
Well, that's why we talked about RJ. We talked about RJ. Emmanuel quickly off the bench is pretty good. What they need is Mitchell Robinson to be more of an offensive threat. He's more of a defensive player.
He's a great defensive player, but yeah,
And
I agree with that.
if their bench can step up, DiVincenzo they just signed quickly. I'm pretty sure they still have Quentin Grimes. He can shoot the basketball pretty well himself. They have options. They just need to figure it out. And obviously, trading for a guy like Levine, somebody of his caliber, would obviously skyrocket their expectations.
I don't think the core they have right now will be able to contend in the East. I think that's safe to say. And whether or not they can even win a playoff round is all dependent on RJ Barrett's development. If his perimeter shot has been lacking during his career, has not been up to expectations. If that develops and he becomes an average to above average 3-point shooter, yeah, I could see the Knicks getting home court advantage winning a playoff series. But if not, they could slide into the play-in games and miss the playoffs altogether. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all.
Yeah, I don't think they're good enough to contend with Brooklyn, or not Brooklyn, I'm sorry, Boston, Philadelphia, Miami, and Milwaukee. I don't think they're that good. However, top six, I think, is definitely an option. They will compete for a top six seed in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. Most likely 5 or 6, but I do think they can compete for those spots, and I think they can have a competitive first round, maybe even get into the second round.
Yeah, I feel like their ceiling's a second round team, though. I don't think they'll be an Eastern Conference Finals threat,
I agree with
at
that.
least not this year.
I agree with that.
All right, let's move on to team number 4. We got the Brooklyn Nets, who've had one of the most chaotic 2-year spans in arguably NBA history. You know, they 2 years ago they ran out of a starting lineup of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, and everyone thought the league was over. Now, all 3 of those players are on different teams, and they have kind of a patchwork of enticing players that they've picked up from these trades. What do you think about the Brooklyn Nets?
I see them as a team very similar to the Knicks, kind of in that we're good enough to compete for a playoff spot, but we're not good enough to make a run in the playoffs. They're somewhere in that middle stretch where I think it's the worst place to be, where you're kind of just stuck in no man's land. I have them finishing top 8 as an expectation, but obviously they can compete for, I think, anywhere 5 through 8. Excuse me. I think they can compete anywhere through there. A competitive first round, unlike getting swept in the first round last year, would obviously be a step up for them. My team MVP is Mikal Bridges. I think he's going to take a huge leap this year, and he probably will become an all-star this year, if not next year. And my team MVP is a total wild card. It's Ben Simmons. If Ben
X factor, but I think
if Ben Simmons can return to like 75% of how he was in Philadelphia, he would be a huge piece for them. The ball handling would be there. The assist making would be there. He's surrounded with a bunch of shooters. I think it's a really good fit for Ben Simmons. He just needs to get his confidence back. He needs to be a force in the paint and a playmaker as opposed to a scoring option.
actually the same thing. Once again, I have an MVP as Mikal Bridges. Like you said, he's expected to take a huge leap in development this year as his first full year as a lead scoring option. I think he can contend for a all-star spot in the East. I also my X factor is Ben Simmons. If we can see him get back to what he was in his early career, elite perimeter defender, an elite playmaker, good finisher at the rim and in the paint, then yeah, I could see Brooklyn squeezing into the playoffs. But I also think this is another team that's primed for regression. They don't have a superstar that a lot of the other teams in the East do. Obviously, Mikal Bridges, he could be, but as of right now, he isn't. I wouldn't say he's an all-star caliber player right now. He could become that as the lead scoring option, but a lot of the teams that finished below them last year have a superstar, and the only reason they were a 60 last year is because of that 18-game winning streak they had when they still had Kyrie and Kevin Durant. So. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brooklyn miss the playoffs and enter a full-scale rebuild, especially if Bridges and Simmons don't live up to expectations. They didn't make a ton of moves in free agency. Their most notable addition was Lonnie Walker. They lost a lot of shooters around them. They lost Seth Curry, Joe Harris, and Patty Mills. So they lost a lot of the shooting that you mentioned that would benefit Ben Simmons. They still have, Cam Johnson. Bridges is a great shooter, but this is a team that I would not be surprised to miss the playoffs and enter a full-scale rebuild. And we're talking about Brooklyn being a high lottery pick next year.
I don't think that's out of the question. Last year, finishing sixth in the East, obviously half the season was played with two of the top 15 players in the NBA, so that obviously helps getting you to the sixth seed, and they definitely regressed after they traded all those pieces. But they're a total wild card team for me. They could either be, they could miss the play-in altogether and head straight to the first round like they did last year, or like you said, they could be a lottery pick and completely blow it up. And I think that all just depends on the core of Bridges, Johnson, and Simmons, how well they can develop this season.
They do have a lot of intriguing pieces. Nick Claxton could be a starting center in the league. I just don't see it with this team. What scares me is that they got swept pretty handily by the Sixers last year, and the Sixers proceeded to then get pretty easily handled by the Miami Heat. I don't think the Nets have what it takes to compete with the elite teams in the East, or even the moderate teams competing for a play-in spot. I just don't see the talent on this team.
Interesting. Okay. Moving on.
With that, we'll move on to the final team.
Final team, Toronto Raptors. Your thoughts, Alex, on the Raptors this season?
This is probably going to be the worst team in this specific division, and might be one of the worst teams in the East. They lost Fred VanVleet in what may have been the biggest offseason trade. And he was also their leading scorer last year. Or was it Siakam? I don't know who averaged more. But I know it was close. With that being said, I have Siakam as their team MVP. He is Toronto's best player at the current moment. And I have their X factor being Scotty Barnes. We saw him have a very promising rookie season where he won Rookie of the Year. And then he didn't take that sophomore jump that a lot expected. In fact, he regressed in a lot of territories, including his shooting. Scotty Barnes is still a very enticing player, offers a lot of defensive versatility, has a very long wingspan. He just needs to round out his offensive game. If he can develop an offensive bag, develop a little shooting, then Scotty Barnes could be a great 3-and-D player. And I actually compare him a lot to Mikal Bridges on the Nets. I think he could be a player like that 3-4 years down the line. But if he doesn't develop an offensive game, Toronto's going to have very little options on offense. It's going to be Siakam hitting B over and over again, just spinning his way like a Beyblade into the paint, trying to get as many free throws as possible.
Yeah, he has a patented spin move.
They don't have a ton of offense.
So first team that we actually disagree on the MVP and the X Factor. So MVP, I have Scotty Barnes as my team MVP because I don't know the future of Pascal Siakam. I doubt he'll be a Raptor by the trade deadline. I doubt OG Anunoby will be a Raptor by the trade deadline. I think both of them will be gone. Therefore, I have the team MVP being Scotty Barnes, as I believe he would be the best player remaining on the team. And for a rebuilding team, like you said, I think they're going to be absolutely terrible. Probably worst 3 teams in the league. One of them will probably be Toronto. And the most important thing for rebuilding teams is to understand how good your young talent is. So for my X Factor, I have Grady Dick. I think he needs to show something this rookie season to prove the Raptors right that they picked him, because he could be as good as a guy like Klay Thompson, who is a great shooter, but also he contributes in other areas of the game, defensively, just spacing. Or he could be a player like JJ Redick or Kyle Korver, where they get exposed on defense a little bit more, even though they're terrific shooters, and that makes them almost unplayable come, playoff time, which the Raptors won't be in now. But once they finish their rebuild and hopefully they're back in the playoffs, Grady Dick will obviously want minutes in that rotation, and playing both ends of the court will be important, especially early on. Just showing that he's trying on defense, showing that he's not just a shooter. So I have him as my X Factor.
Yeah. I have Dick as their biggest offseason acquisition. They didn't really do much in free agency. And Dick offers much-needed perimeter shooting that the team sorely lacks otherwise, and losing Fred VanVleet definitely doesn't help their perimeter shooting. The Raptors haven't suggested they're going to go into a rebuild anytime soon. They still think they can compete with the core they have. I don't know why, but Masai Ujiri thinks they can. But if the team struggles early on, I can see them being sold at the trade deadline. Like you said, Anunoby, is Gary Trent Jr. still on the team?
Yeah, I think he is. He's a good piece off the bench, maybe starter. He might start this year, to be honest.
He could be a trade candidate at the deadline if they struggle. You had Siakam in your mock trades last episode. He could be a trade deadline candidate. Jakob Poeltl. They have the pieces to be an average team. And I think that is their ceiling. Maybe they sneak into the play-in again as a 9 or 10 seed, but
I don't see them
losing the play-in. I think that's their ceiling.
Yeah, I think it's
their ceiling. I
think it's in their best interest to blow it up and rebuild for the next half a decade. I don't see Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Scotty Barnes winning a single playoff series against anybody. I don't see that happening.
I agree with that. Their best option is to blow it up. They don't want to be being the 9 and 10 seed, losing the play-in rounds over and over again.
When they won the championship, Pascal Siakam was like their third best player, and now he's their best player. So I just don't see them being any better than what you said was a play-in team. But I expect them to be bottom 5 because I expect them to rebuild and trade all their pieces away this season. So sorry, Raptors fans, but.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very rough season for you guys. But hey, you might pick up some good pieces at the deadline, some future first rounders. The future could look bright if you decide to blow it up. The present does not look very bright.
No, it does not.
All right, out of the 5 teams that we listed, which team do you think is most likely to win an NBA championship this year?
Boston. I think that's a pretty easy answer. Their only competition in this division is Philadelphia, who they seem to dominate every time they meet in the playoffs. Embiid is not on the level that Tatum is, in my opinion, as opposed to like playoff performers. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think he's there yet. He hasn't shown it yet. They haven't even made the conference finals with Embiid. Tatum's won the conference before. He's made conference finals multiple times. I think Boston has the best chance, especially after adding Porzingis. And with the James Harden contract talks, that doesn't help Philadelphia at all. That does not help them. So I'm going to go Boston with the best chance to win the NBA title this year.
I do agree. I do agree with you, Boston, right now. But we have to see what Philly gets for James Harden before we jump to any conclusions. He has been linked to the Clippers the most, but if we see some kind of wild, unexpected, something like Harden for Dame, that could change expectations. I feel like a Dame and Embiid pairing could very well supplant Boston as the favorite in not only the division, but the conference. They could even supplant Milwaukee.
I do think that'd be a very lethal pairing, but I would have to see it first before I could put them over a team like Boston, who's proven so much. And they also added a guy like Porzingis, who's no slouch. He definitely makes their team better than they have been in the past. So, yeah, Dame would make the Sixers infinitely better, but I would still have to see it mesh on the court first before I could call them a championship contender.
Embiid is a generational superstar in the peak of his career right now. In a Jokic-less world, Embiid would be a 3-time back-to-back-to-back MVP. With that being said, he hasn't had the playoff success that other superstars in the division had. He's had, like you said, he hasn't even made the conference finals yet, while Tatum led the team to the conference finals and went toe-to-toe with the prime LeBron James as a rookie. Tatum has also led his Celtics to the finals, and I think he's led him to the conference finals on one other occasion. He's played less seasons, already has much more playoff success than Embiid, and that experience in the playoffs is definitely an attribute for the Boston Celtics. I do like the additions they made this year. I feel like the addition of Porzingis will affect the team much better than the loss of Marcus Smart will hurt the team. Marcus Smart's going to be great on the Grizzlies. He was a great Celtic, and I know Celtics fans didn't like losing the heart and soul of their team, but at the end of the day, when you can get a 7'3" guy that can stretch the floor and defend the paint at an elite level, as well as 2 first-round picks, we didn't even talk about that. Brad Stevens managed to finesse 2 first-round picks and Porzingis.
Yeah,
incredible job by Stevens. I think that was just too much to pass up, and that puts the Celtics as one of the favorites, not the favorite in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I agree. And this past season, going back to the playoff success, Tatum beat Embiid in the conference semifinals. So the proof is right there. Celtics are better than the Sixers right now, and I don't see that changing this season, barring drastic injuries or trades.
Do you think one of the other teams we mentioned, the Knicks or the Nets, can make a Heat-like run in the playoffs?
I don't see either of those teams making a Heat-like run. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be the Knicks, just because they have Jalen Brunson, and He's special. He can carry a team as far as that team will, support him and hit the open shots. Against the Heat in the first round last year, Jalen Brunson was doing everything. If he just gets a little bit more support, especially from Julius Randle, they can make a run, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Knicks have a lot more star power than the Nets and are a much bigger threat in the conference this year. But I just think the East is it's too top heavy. Milwaukee is going to bounce back after losing the playoffs first round. Giannis is going to be very hungry, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him take home the MVP. Boston, we've talked about them. Philly, we've talked about them. Miami just went on a finals run and are obviously the favorites to land Damian Lillard. There's a lot of up-and-coming teams, like the Cavaliers, have a lot of young talent to pair with Donovan Mitchell, who is one of the best scorers in the league. There's and the Hawks with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, another year of that duo building chemistry could benefit them. The Magic have a lot of young talent and could very well sneak into the playoffs. I just don't see any room for the Nets to even make the playoffs. The Knicks have a chance with the star power they have, but yeah, they're not going to make any sort of deep run.
Yeah, I don't see it. Like you said, top heavy is a perfect way to describe the East. The top four, Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, and Philly, are significantly better than any other team in the Eastern Conference. So I don't see any one of those four teams not making the NBA Finals. That would be absurd.
All right, you got anything else you want to add for this division?
No, I think that's pretty good. We can move on to the ending segment.
Yeah, we've hit crunch time. We're switching up from the blind rankings. We're going to go into top 10 rankings. We just pick a category and list our top 10. I will do mine on Sunday. Max has his today. And today we're doing top 10 jerseys.
Yep, so I have created a list of top 10 teams with the best jerseys. So it's not a specific jersey. It's just the entire team's jersey collection. And this is current, not all-time. Alex is going to do an all-time ranking on Sunday. All right, so starting at number 10, I have the Golden State Warriors. They have some solid jerseys, good colorway. I like the logo is really creative, but I don't think it's top tier in the NBA. So I have them at a nice 10. Number 9, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. I love their colors, but I don't really like...
The Grizzlies aren't higher.
No, I don't really like their the dark blue jerseys. I don't like that color with like the light blue. I like the light blue.
Their white jerseys are so clean. Their white jerseys are so clean too.
The white jerseys are clean, and I like their logo a lot. So that makes their jerseys
Your logo's
better.
clean. The font they have is awesome. It fits the whole Grizzlies theme. I really do like their jerseys, but I'm more of a clean jersey guy, and you'll notice that towards the top of my rankings. Number 8, I have the Lakers for nostalgic purposes, kind of. I really like the purple and gold. It goes great with their court every night. And their purple jerseys are sweet. Love the purple. Might be the most iconic colorway. That and the green of the Boston Celtics of the NBA.
Yeah. Number 7, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. Their jerseys are very clean with the orange and blue stripe down the side. The font's really cool, and their logo, again, adds to the jersey, I think. And the shorts, too. Shorts are a big part of the NBA jerseys. So I have the Thunder at 7. Number 6, I have the Hornets.
I would have the Hornets at 1. Wow, I think the Hornets are the coolest jersey in the NBA. It's the only thing they have going for that team. I
don't like the pinstripes. That's the only thing holding them back.
Really?
I don't like the pinstripes.
Wow, that is...
I acknowledge it's a super cool jersey. I have it at number 6. I love the colors. The font's amazing. I don't like the pinstripes, and that's why I can't put it higher I can't put it in my top 5. I don't like the pinstripes. What can I say? I'm a simple guy. I'm a simple guy. No.
Number be 1. The best part about their team is the jerseys.
Well, that's correct. The best part about their team is the jerseys. However, I can't justify putting pinstripes in my top 5. I can't do it.
All right, I gotta see you have over the Hornets.
Number 5, I have the Phoenix Suns. Their black jerseys are absolutely fire.
I can
and that, they just got new jerseys, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they are clean. I love their new jerseys this year. It's got like the sun going across the chest. Very clean, very cool. I love their new jerseys. Number 4, I have the Bucks because I love the green. The green and the tannish colors.
I'm a Bucks fan. I don't have those top 10, but I will not be complaining. I will take that.
I love the Milwaukee Bucks jerseys. They're super clean.
A top 10?
Top 5, actually. They're number 4.
Number 4. Wow, that's
I love their jerseys.
surprising.
I think the only thing I don't like about them is your stupid blue jerseys or whatever. The bluish purple jerseys are ugly. The like the city edition ones, I don't like those.
Yeah,
but they're normal jerseys.
I hate her nickname Cream City. Really, you really put that on a jersey? They had to go play an NBA game wearing Cream City on their jersey.
Yeah, that was in the past. That was in the past, though. That was in the past. Their normal, just white and green jerseys are super clean, super good. Top 3. Number 3, the Boston Celtics. I absolutely love their jerseys. Iconic,
top 3. Yeah.
Super clean. The green is iconic, and every year they come out with a nice black jersey that looks sweet. So they're number 3 for me. Number 2, I have the reigning champions, the Denver Nuggets. Their jerseys are yes. They're so simple. The shorts with the little mountain, awesome. Not too much, not a bunch of different colors. I love their colors. Blue, red, and yellow looks great. And there's just something about the Nuggets team. They just look like they're ready to rock in those jerseys.
I like their alternate jerseys, the one where they have the mountain landscape in the background. I think those are clean. Their normal home and away jerseys, I don't think that's top 3 worthy or worthy of the number 2 ranking. I could see them making the top 10. They do have good jerseys, but number 2 I feel like is a bit high for the Nuggets.
I just love the clean look. I think that's why I said I like the clean jerseys. I like less is more for me on an NBA jersey, and I like the Nuggets jerseys. That's all I gotta say. And number 1. I have the Chicago Bulls having the best jersey in the NBA. Growing up in Chicago, that's just an iconic jersey. They haven't changed it at all. And there is not a better color combination than red, black, and white. I'm sorry. There's just not a better color combination than those 3 right there. So I give number 1 to Chicago.
I can agree with that. I would have Chicago as top 3, but I could see the argument for number 1. The Chicago jerseys are awesome. And when Chicago gets a superstar, that'll be the next jersey I buy. But I don't want to buy anyone on the team because they're all going to be leaving the next 3 years.
Yeah. So that is my
cleanest
top
jerseys,
10.
but might be the worst team.
Yep. So that's
might be the worst team in the East.
Top 10 ranking for current NBA jerseys. And that's all we have for today's show. Go ahead and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok, all that good stuff. And we'll see you Sunday.
Peace.
Peace.